and cringed as she felt her husband's fierce gaze burning through her at Gemma's harsh words and shrank back, feeling her strength leave her. "Anne, is it true? I just now found out that you and my bodyguard Michael, are you lovers?" "Yes, James, we are lovers. I'm asking you to let me go. Let's file for divorce. I'm pregnant with Michael's baby." James froze for a moment, then replied, "Divorce? No," roared James. "I love you." "Well, forget about that lowlife Michael. He abandoned you, betrayed you, just like you betrayed me. But I'll forgive you if you stay. We'll live our lives as if nothing ever happened. Your Michael left you. I offered him money, he accepted, and now he's far away from here," and was overcome by a wave of indignation. "I don't believe it," she shouted. "Michael couldn't betray me. He loves love." James chuckled contemptuously. "He sold you for a pittance. Here, read it." He tossed her a crumpled note and unfolded it with trembling hands. "I'm sorry, Anne, but you were only a hobby to me. Don't come looking for me. I don't want the child." The world was crumbling. How could Michael, who had sworn his love to her, do this? After all, he was genuinely happy that Anne was pregnant. Michael had offered to tell James that he and Anne were lovers, and now it turned out that she was just a crush for him. She tore up the note and threw it on the floor. Tears choked Anne, but she clenched her teeth. "All right," she sounded hoarse. "I'll stay. But I won't have an abortion. It's my baby. And if you don't agree with that, then I'll leave." James agreed. At the end of her pregnancy, Anne went into labor. Her husband took her to a private maternity hospital. The labor was very difficult. A lot of blood was lost. Anne was very weak. And after she came to a little consciousness, the spouse informed her that the child during labor died. James took his wife home and hired a nurse to take care of her, as Anne was too weak. The couple lived wealthily. James had his own large business and could afford to care for his spouse, and gradually recovered. For a long time, she dreamed of her baby, whom she had lost, as if he was reaching for her hands, but she could not take them. Something held her. She even dreamt about Michael. At that moment, she hated him with all her soul, considered him guilty of tragedy, and was deeply unhappy. Gradually, Anne's health began to improve. She was grateful to her husband for his care and attention. 2 years passed and became pregnant again. She and James had a beautiful daughter. James loved the little girl. In honor of his mother, James named his daughter Amanda. It seemed that Anne found happiness, but her husband, after the birth of her daughter, as if replaced, he often did not sleep at home. He came home in the morning a little drunk, and he smelled of women's perfume. And one day he called his wife by a false name. She decided to talk to him. "James, what's going on? You've been staying out a lot, coming home drunk. You're calling me by a different name. Are you having an affair? You don't like the fact that I have a mistress," he said angrily. "Feel what I experienced when I found out about your cheating with Michael? Michael came to me that day and asked me to let you go, said he loved you very much. But what could that beggar give you? I'm rich and I offered him money on the condition that he would give you up, but he wouldn't take it," James said with anger in his voice. "James, you're drunk. What are you talking about? Michael turned me down. You showed me his note yourself and said surprised. I lied to you. I wrote the note on his behalf. You didn't know his handwriting. I told him I'd rather go to jail than let you go. He was scared for you and the baby. James, I hate you. If it wasn't for you, my son would still be alive. And screamed, your son is alive. Since you were too weak, I took advantage of the situation and gave you a document to sign to give up the baby. And I told you that it was a document that we had no claim against the doctors, that the baby died. I didn't want to raise someone else's child, James said with a chuckle in his voice, and realized that James had been holding a grudge all along, and now he had found a way to pay her back for past wrongs. Something had to be done. She was faced with a choice: file for divorce, take Amanda away, or accept her life and continue to live with her husband, and had hoped all along that James had forgiven her infidelity and they could get back on track. But James couldn't forget. He waited for the opportune moment when Anne would forget about the past so that he could hit her the way she had once hit him. All of his actions were driven by a thirst for revenge. One thing was certain: their relationship was irretrievably broken. Even a daughter in common could no longer unite them. James, you monster. After everything you've done, I can't live with you. I'm filing for divorce. I'm taking my daughter with me. You can go. Except Amanda's staying with me. Do you understand me? He said loudly. Go away. I'm not keeping you. Anne was stunned. She couldn't live without her daughter. It didn't make sense in her mind. How could she leave their 5-year-old daughter to him? She couldn't do it without Amanda. Please give me my daughter. I beg you. And tearfully pleaded. But James walked over to his wife, took their daughter, and told Anne to leave. Amanda was crying and reaching for her mother's arms, but James was adamant and packed her things, picked up her bag, and headed for the exit. On the threshold, she turned to her daughter and promised her she would come back to pick her up. But she didn't come back. James wouldn't let her do it and sued to get her daughter back, but the court was on James' side. James managed to convince the judge that Anne was a bad mother. The court allowed her to see her daughter occasionally, but only in the presence of James. Later, James took his daughter to another city and lost contact with her. So Anne was left all alone. She got a job as a hospital nurse. At work, she met an elderly woman who took pity on Anne and offered her to live with her. The elderly woman had no relatives and took care of her. The elderly woman later left her an inheritance of her home and never settled her personal life. Thoughts that somewhere she has a son and daughter growing up did not give her peace of mind. A few years passed and had just entered the house after a hard night's work when there was a knock at the door. She opened the doors. A beautiful young girl stood on the doorstep and cried out and threw her arms around the girl. It was her daughter. The young girl cried and said, Mommy, I've waited so long to meet you, but Daddy wouldn't let me meet you. I had to wait until I was of age. I remembered you all my life. I asked my father to look for you, but he wouldn't even hear from you. Maybe if he'd been more persistent, Dad would have let me see you. But he scolded you, told me you cheated on him with his bodyguard. No, it wasn't your fault. He separated us from you. I miss you so much. Her mother sighed heavily and cried. She touched the girl's cheek with the palm of her hand and continued, Dad has already told you that I had an affair with a bodyguard. I won't go into the details of why I did it, but I wanted to tell you this. As a result of that affair, I had a son. But your father gave up the baby at the hospital. He didn't want to raise someone else's child. He told me the baby died during labor. I tried to find him, but the search was fruitless. Mother and daughter spent the day talking, huddled closely together. Amanda was shocked by the revelation of her brother's existence and her father's actions. She could not understand why he had acted in such a way. During the night, and developed serious heart problems due to the stress of seeing her daughter. Amanda, terrified for her mother's health, called an ambulance. The medics who arrived were quickly dispatched to Anne. Upon seeing the doctor, Anne was amazed he looked a lot like Michael. The doctor, after examining the patient and performing the necessary procedures, said, "You have a very weak heart. You need to take care of yourself. I have given you medicine. You will feel relief soon. However, you need further medical examination. Doctor, what's your name? May I ask you to leave me your number? I'd like to discuss some things with you tomorrow. My name is Steve. Sure, here is my number. I'm off duty tomorrow, so you can call me around lunchtime," the doctor answered, a little surprised by the request. After the doctor left and turned to her daughter, Amanda, that doctor looked surprisingly a lot like Michael. "I even thought he was the one who walked in, but the doctor is too young for that. Let's try to meet him tomorrow and talk to him. Maybe it's my son." Amanda happily agreed. She wanted to find her brother. The next day, after work, Steve headed home. His father was already waiting for him. After finishing lunch with his father, Steve heard the phone ring. It was Anne. After talking to her, he turned to his father. "Dad, yesterday I was on a call with a woman named Anne. She looked at me very surprised, as if she had met an old acquaintance. Then she asked for my number. And now she called me back and asked me to meet her at a cafe tonight. Unexpected." "What's her name?" Father asked. "Anne." "Why are you so surprised?" "We're going to a meeting together tonight. There are some questions that need to be clarified." "Okay, we'll go together," replied a surprised Steve. In a beautiful hall, at a table with a lace tablecloth, sat a mother and daughter. Soon Steve entered the hall, followed by a familiar figure. "Michael!" Anne exclaimed, standing up. "Michael, is that you?" Amanda stood up as well, looking at her mother in surprise. Steve and his father walked up to them, graying and slightly aged. "Anne, darling, it's so good to see you," he said. "And I'm glad to see you. This is my daughter, Amanda. I saw Steve yesterday, and I guess I was mistaken in thinking Steve was our son. But he is our son. When you had the baby, your ex-husband told me you'd given up on the baby and offered to take him. I agreed. I didn't give up. After a difficult labor, James said the baby died. I later found out he was alive, but I couldn't find him." Michael had done, confessing that he never settled his personal life, all the time waiting and loving her. Now he was tearfully happy to see her and their son, and admitted that her feelings for Michael had flared up with renewed vigor. Amanda and Steve decided to leave their parents alone and take a walk around town because they had a lot to discuss, especially now that they had learned that they were brother and sister.